Uncertainty is a funny little feeling, isn't it? It is curious, it's odd, it's enticing. There's something about being uncertain that draws my attention, and maybe this is the same for you, maybe it isn't. But I look at this feeling and I notice something. It could contain any other feeling in the future. Maybe you're going to experience joy later on as a result of this unresolved thing, this bit of uncertainty. Maybe it'll be sadness. Maybe it'll be absolute terror or depression. What will it be? You don't know. And so something in my brain whispers to me, and maybe this happens for you too, and it says, hey, we better keep an eye on this uncertainty because we need to be prepared for whatever it is, so let's predict what it's going to be. What could it be? How will this turn out? This is Game, Develop, Repeat. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'd like to talk with you about that funny feeling and about how uncertainty relates to video games, how video games handle certainty and uncertainty, or at least how I've experienced those in video games, those feelings in video games. I also want to talk about it in relation to game development and the journey of learning to develop games and all that that entails. Without further ado, let's get into it. There's a sort of background sense of certainty going on anytime that we're playing a video game. So in the game, you might be concerned that your character is going to die at any moment. You might be concerned that you're not going to have enough resources, that you're not going to get to this quest in time, etc., etc. Maybe this character might die. Maybe there's nothing you can do about this, that, or the other. Simultaneously, you, the player, are certain that you are safe. And you can reset the game at any time if you want to. Might be really frustrating, might be really annoying, but you can explore every single possibility in that game. You can do anything you want to with that game because you own the game. You can reset, you can restart. As long as you dedicate the time, you're good to go. It's your own little world to do what you will with. And that's a weird thing to be sure of. I want you to really think about that for a second. There are two really strange things going on here. One, you know that you are completely safe, and simultaneously you can be fighting for your life with everything you've got in the game, right? Depending on how invested you are. Maybe you're in Iron Man mode in the game, and if you die in the game, your character deletes itself. Maybe you're doing something like that. Simultaneously, you can have these two feelings. You're totally safe in reality, but you're so invested in this game that you are really worried about dying, and you're really trying hard not to. Now, that's interesting in and of itself, isn't it? That's a weird sensation. You've kind of given yourself this safe place to take this incredibly high risk situation to interact with this extremely high risk situation. That's pretty cool. Now, the other element of this that I sort of already alluded to is the fact that you can reset the game at any point. That is another entire wild element that gives you certainty when you're playing a game. A sort of certainty that just does not exist in reality. You can't reset, you can't load, you can't go back in time. I'm sounding like that character in the Grand Theft Auto radio show in GTA Vice City right now. But that's a deep cut reference. One or two of you may understand what I'm talking about there. So the fact that you can't, the fact that you can rewind in a video game gives you this whole new power and this whole level of certainty, even within the, again, uncertainty of everything that is happening in the game and attempting to save the world as your hero and keep this person alive and so on and so on and so on. But then you also have this thing as a player where you're going, do I want to use this item? If I use this item, I may never get a chance to use it again, and I'll have to reset the whole thing and blah, 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 blah. There's this whole meta thing that can happen. And this is a weird one. I don't like the kind of uncertainty that pulls me out of the game. Maybe I should elaborate and explain exactly what I mean by that. If I'm worrying about resource management in a way that the character probably would not be worrying about it, there's a good chance that it's putting me back in my own head and out of the character's head. It's the same thing I talk about sometimes with rewards. I want the character to be rewarded sometimes, and then other times I want me, the player, to be rewarded. And I find it weird when the player is getting rewarded in a way that doesn't reward the character, if it's a very role-playing heavy game. This is one of my problems that I have with MMOs. I realize now I get very frustrated with this in MMOs. If I am getting weird daily rewards and shop gold, real money cash shop rewards from quests that I did in the game, that drives me a little crazy, because it makes me break out of this character, and that's not why I'm playing this game, right? I'm trying to be in this character. It's a role-playing game. But I'm going on a tangent again, as I tend to do, especially since right now I'm recording at 4 a.m, the day of posting this episode. This has been a tough one to figure out. It's been a bit of a journey. I've been uncertain about whether or not I could even come up with an episode in time for this recording. I have been struggling with ideas for hours on this one. It's been tricky. And that's the kind of thing that really draws a line between the uncertainty of a game and the uncertainty of reality, right? Deadlines, all these little things, all these things that really matter in reality because you can't wind it back, that don't matter in a game. And I'm curious about that design. I'm curious about the elements that we intentionally put into a game and the elements that we've not put in. And what have we not put in simply because we were we haven't thought of it yet, or there's not a good way to implement it, versus this is not good, this is not enjoyable gameplay. Which elements of reality are not enjoyable gameplay? What elements of risk and confusion and uncertainty are bad for gameplay? Isn't that an odd question? There's something about it that's good, though. There's something about it that's enticing. There's something about not knowing what loot the opponent is going to drop, not knowing whether or not you're going to survive this battle, not knowing what the next attack is, having this high risk and dying and having to reset over and over and over and finding it out, and then learning these skills and then slowly becoming very certain of something that earlier you had no idea how to deal with. And I think that leads us into talking about developing things, doesn't it? Here's something I've been thinking about. What is that sensation in a game where you just know that it's going to be fine? Think about that. There's a feeling that you have in a game of security, and it may not be a feeling that you notice. It may not be a feeling that you pay any attention to whatsoever, because it's just there. You just know. Even as everything is going horribly, even as your character is getting destroyed, even as you're losing the match against another player, whatever, there's still a feeling of oh, this is fine. Actually, maybe not as much in multiplayer ranked games because it's closer to real world repercussions. But in an RPG, the world can be ending and you feel completely fine. At least for me. I imagine it's the same for you. What is that sensation? You probably had this experience in at least one genre, is what I mean to say. There's this sensation of, whatever happens, it's a game. It doesn't matter. It's a game. It's fine. Right? Even if you get frustrated by the loss, you just load. You can always handle it. You can always take it on. You can always deal with the challenges. Now, here's my question. When have you experienced that feeling in real life? When I first thought of this question, I thought, man, some people must just have that feeling in reality all the time. Like, based on the way that people act, there are some people who are just always that secure, who are just always like, yeah, it'll work out, it's fine, just like I feel in a video game, right? Where it's like, yeah, well, it's fine, it's a game, I can just load, it's no big deal. Like, I think some people just have that feeling all the time, but I bet you we've all had that feeling in real life at some point, right? So I don't know why this is so interesting to me specifically, but this drawing this line from that level of confidence in playing a game to that level of confidence in existing in the world is very important to me. Because if you can feel that level of confidence in existing in the world, then why not have that all the time? You can't. What is the point I'm trying to make here? This is a very difficult one to put into words, especially at this hour with this amount of mental power. I really think that there is a level of security and confidence that is just fine to have, you know? Like, in the same way that everything is going to work out in the game when you're working on this, that, the other, I do think that there's an element of just when I'm working on a creative project, the same thing. When I'm learning development, when I'm learning programming, when I'm learning this, that, the other, same thing. It's fine. You can always reset the project. Now, maybe this doesn't apply everywhere in life. You don't want to, be foolish about skydiving or anything. Take some precautions. But when you're programming, it's fine. Now, maybe the stakes start to get higher and you start to get a little concerned with it. Maybe you lose 2 years of work because you weren't backing stuff up on Git, right? Like, back up your work, for sure. Use some source control, for sure. But there really is this thing in creative work where we look at it, we go, the stakes are so high and I'm not confident that I can make it through this. The impact on me will be too severe. But when you get deep in the weeds, when you've done it a couple times, you start to look at it and you start to go, no, it's the same as playing a game. It's the same as reading a book. Like, it's scary in a way. Sure, certainly. Why not? But at the same time, there's no real repercussion to failure. And if you're setting yourself up to have real repercussions to failure, then that's a different thing. But if you're just learning the craft, you're good. Just do it. And just do the thing. It's fine. You can just load the game, man. It's the same sort of level of impact. You may go, I can't take the pain of failing at this project. I can't take the misery of not doing a good job drawing this thing. And it's like, can you take the pain of just like getting whooped on Elden Ring? Because then you can just load. And if you can handle the pain of sucking at a video game, honestly, if you've already dealt with that, just do the crossover skill. Just go, it's a video game. I'm learning a new thing in the same way that I learned to play a new video game. And it's a really freaking hard game, but the payoff is huge and I really want to get good at it. Not to just draw a line between everything and video games, but it is a video game podcast, right? I just think it's an interesting metaphor and an interesting way to spot a very subtle little emotion. And not to go on a total tangent here, but I'm going to because I have had no sleep. There is something to be said about noticing these emotions that fly under the radar, noticing these feelings of security, of confidence, these positive feelings that you don't pay as much attention to because they're positive, right? And maybe I'm just talking to myself on this one, but when you have something like when you're anxious about something, you notice it's screaming at you. But when you're feeling secure, you don't notice it as much. And it's nice to take something like the level of confidence in outcome that you have while playing a video game and just notice that and go, wait, are there times that I feel that in normal life? Because that seems like a weird feeling. Feeling like you can safely predict the future? That seems odd. Feeling a feeling of certainty in a completely uncertain and fairly random world with all this chaos all over it and all this stuff and it going fine. Maybe I can feel certain that I will learn this skill if I put the time into it. In fact, it makes sense that I could learn this skill if I put the time into it. That seems like a pretty definite outcome. Why not work towards it? Does that make sense? Is that too much of a tangent? I think it's a little bit of a tangent, but in the same way, I think it's interesting to investigate other such feelings. And I can't think of something like that at the moment, but that's the one that really stands out to me right now. The sensation of, well, let me put it this way. Maybe you can take any particularly strong negative emotion, search for its opposite, and find times that exists. In games too, by the way, because this is first and foremost a game development podcast. Maybe you can find these odd little emotional states in video games and go, how did they make that happen? What is it about this design that made me feel this way? What is the context around this design? Is my character safe? Can I save? Can I load? How's the user interface? Is there anything making me think about the keyboard or the gamepad or the screen? Is there anything that's sucking me out of it? Or is everything leaning me into this experience? Is this something where I am experiencing these feelings? Or is the character I'm playing as experiencing these feelings? Which is a very weird distinction to make, I know. But there is something to it, isn't there? Sometimes the character is experiencing it and you are the character. Other times you're watching the character experience it. I'm not sure how else to elaborate on that, but that is one of the weirdest things in gaming, isn't it? Being able to kind of ride that spectrum between inhabiting the character emotionally, not literally, right? We're not being delusional here, but emotionally inhabiting the character, like feeling like you are in their shoes versus getting frustrated as a player trying to control the character versus like just full on metagaming, right? Like the spectrum of D&D all the way over to raging at your teammates on League of Legends. Like the immersion spectrum. I feel like that's the spectrum, right? Those are probably the extremes. That's probably as far into immersion as you can get and as far away from it as you can possibly get. That would be my guess. Anyway, it's going to be a little bit of an unstructured landing on this episode here. I do hope you'll forgive me for that. It's been a rough one to get recorded, but let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I've only got one question for you this week. And it's maybe a little bit of a presumptuous question and a little bit of a leading question, but I'm going to do it anyway. So hopefully it's useful to someone out there. The question is simply this: is there any skill that you are avoiding learning because you are uncertain of whether or not you'll be able to learn it? And can you treat that skill like a new game where you just go, I'll just load. It's not going to affect me in reality. It's just some new skill that I'm learning, you know? It's no big deal. Oh, maybe it makes me feel a certain way for a minute, just like a game does. Just like a really sad moment in a game. Same deal. It's not real. It's just, it is, but it's just a part of this process of getting through this game of level 1 of learning this skill. Anyway, obviously I have an ulterior motive here of convincing you to try to learn the skill. But if not, maybe it's just not time yet. If you're not feeling it, that's fine. That happens too. That's it's all a part of the whole process, isn't it? In which case, do something else. For me, is there a skill like that? Yeah, actually, I'm getting better about it now, but oddly enough, cooking. I don't know why. I'm like terrified of wasting food or burning things and not knowing what I'm doing and all this stuff. Cooking is a big thing for me. I know that's not that exciting. It's not really a game dev skill, but game dev skills feel so much like just playing a game to me. For some reason, cooking feels like the most high stakes thing in the world. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's that. And that's everything this week. I've got the Twitch stream. I may not be streaming today when this launches because I'm going to be pretty exhausted. But it's typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll announce on the Discord whether or not I'm streaming today. I'll let people know. But 2 p.m. Eastern, a little bit of game dev, a little bit of gaming. And yeah, we've got the Discord if you want to hop in, if you want to hang out. I've also got my email if you want to shout at me about anything. anxiousbuddhagames@gmail.com. Oh, I've been meaning to do a community shout out. My God, I've been missing this community shout out for freaking like 2 weeks now. What am I doing? Give me 1 second. It's on Steam. We had a community member release a game on Steam, and the game is called Survivalscape. They made it's a Vampire Survivors like game called Survivalscape. It costs $4, and there's a free demo. So, if you're interested in seeing something that somebody in the community made, check it out. Check out the demo. See what they're up to. It's got 29 positive reviews, 93% positive. It seems like it's been pretty well received. I played the demo. Demo was nice. So, yeah, there's a little community shout out for you. If you've been working on anything cool, let me know. Hit me at the email or the Discord or whatever. You know how it is. Always like to hear the things that everybody's up to. That is everything, for this week. I will catch you all in the next one. I'm going to go get some friggin' sleep. It's 4:30 in the morning. This is a mess. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Oh, boy. See you then. Until then, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. Bye-bye.